Shot him a message. He hasn't responded yet, but I'll keep an eye out.
Okay, so thanks everybody for joining this call. I'll keep it very short. This call is only to educate about the new services 2FA that has gone live, and what is it all about. And we'll talk a little bit about roadmap as well. So we all know what 2FA is. We all have used in one of our services, whatever services you would have been using. The Telestax 2FA features can be broadly divided into four categories. Um, Basically, these are the API categories. So one is to send, other is to verify, and third one is control API. We'll see what that means. And the fourth one is mostly about session detail records, which will be used for billing or to search specific 2FA in case if there are any delivery issues. Right, so let's quickly jump on Send API. So the Send API allows you to send the OTP via various channels. We have support for SMS, call, and email. The email support is only in US POP as of today. That's because email is not yet deployed in Europe or Japan. But the OTP or 2FS services itself does support email. So if you guys are trying on US POP, you should be able to send email as well. The API is pretty simple. It's all post. It's very close to what Restcomm core APIs are. So the look and feel or the experience of the end user or developer pretty much matches with the Restcomm core. Um, so when you send the OTP, there are quite a few parameters it takes. As I explained, this is a post parameter. So you have to pass these parameters into the post body. The service is the name of the service. So basically, the idea here is enterprises. Let's say Zain would have two of their banks as their customers, and each of these banks will have maybe different services. Maybe one is to reset the password. Maybe the other one is to send the OTP when the customer is trying to do the transaction. So they would want to differentiate these services by giving some unique name. These services would then be used later on in the search filter criteria, so they can understand which all services has what kind of OTP is consumed. Um, and the legacy APIs, so we had some old APIs as well that we still support for backward compatibility. So if any of our customers are using the old APIs, then service is a mandatory parameter for verifying the OTP. Okay. The rest of the parameters are very self-explanatory. So from is the number or email address, to is a number or email address where you want to send the OTP. Body is the body of your OTP. It's mandatory that you specify a placeholder code, which is then replaced by the business logic with actual code. And we also allow the users to specify the length of the code. So it can be 4 digits, 5 digits, 6 digits, 7 digits, depending upon whatever your business logic is. The other feature that has been added is the admin account can send the OTP on behalf of sub account as well. This is explicitly keeping Restcomm in mind. We allow calls and SMS on behalf of sub accounts. So to keep the mapping, OTPs can also be sent on behalf of sub accounts. As I explained, channel is SMS, call, or email. You can only select one channel at a time as of today. Um, but eventually the roadmap is we want to allow users to select multiple channels. So in the roadmap, we'll allow users to say, hey, send this OTP via SMS and call and email at the same time, or follow a template where it says send SMS. If the user doesn't react in next 30 seconds, send another SMS. If doesn't react, then in another 30 seconds, send a call, or after some time, send email. And we want to keep that pretty flexible. So we want to allow the users to define whatever template suits them, right? So that's coming in the future. Language again, we allow the multilingual OTP. So whether it's an SMS or call or email, you specify the language here. If it's SMS or email, the Restcom itself will decide about the language. So there's nothing much. You just have to pass the body with the correct language or correct content, text content in the body. But if it's a call, then it's text to speech. So this becomes mandatory. So this language is explicitly for text to speech. Subject, again, very specific to email. If you're sending email, you want to pass the subject. And the repeat is very specific to call. So if you are making a call to an end user for OTP, you would want the OTP to be repeated 2 times, 3 times, whatever it is, right? So you can pass that as a parameter. Length I already explained. This is for number of digits that should go in OTP. And by the way, all these parameters have defaults apart from from to body. Everything else has defaults. So if you don't pass, it'll take the default values. And the voice is man or woman voice for text to speech, right? And we also have exposed the um, voice directly from Restcomm save verb, so you can actually pass the engine name as well if you want, and it'll automatically take the engine. Otherwise, it'll use whatever is the default engine. Let me pause there for a few seconds. Any questions so far on the Send API?
Yes, I do have a question. Hi, Amit. This
Hey,
is Daisy.
yeah, Desi.
Um, okay, I have two questions. One is if we support resend of the OTP,
Mhm.
and the second is what is the limitation of the amount of OTPs you can send per minute?
So we have the roadmap for recent. They see it's not yet implemented, but we'll definitely want to implement that. And the amount is not restricted by the 2FA business logic as of today. So whatever restrictions we have on the Restcomm platform, that's the restriction that will apply. Um, Once I move ahead, I'll show you that the 2FA details also captures the underlying send error code. So let's say if you're trying to send SMS, and if it's all asynchronous on the Restcomm side, right? So maybe the underlying channel failed, maybe the SMS delivery failed after some time. When you search for OTP, it will give you all those details. So the end user will receive the details even when the threshold has reached. The OTP details will give that you reach to the threshold.
Okay, I'm asking mainly because in the beginning, like some time ago, like a year ago, when I initially started working on this use case particularly, we were thinking about putting this limitation, and I'm not quite sure if we actually explained it also in the use case on the rescom.com's page, but yeah, I just wanted to get some clearance on that. So
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Desi. Even as of today, we have received some of our support tickets where the users were not able to send SMS, and we realized that there was not enough of SMS per minute settings done for that account. So I think that's, yeah, good point. I'll probably specify explicitly in the documentation that it depends on underlying Restcom account.
yeah, that will be
I
useful.
I have another question real quick. A couple of them. One, I think an important thing that have been asked from customers are the kind of expiration time on OTP codes. Um, how is that managed right now? Once an OTP is generated, is it valid indefinitely?
Right, Sabi. So no, it's definitely not indefinite. Now we have a default timeout period of 5 minutes, and we already
Okay.
received the feedback from lineups. They want that 5 minutes to be configurable. So one of the parameters that
Right.
we'll introduce here is time limit, right? And of course, we'll put some
Exactly.
high value like 10 minutes maximum or 15 minutes, whatever. Like, and it cannot go beyond that.
Right. Okay. So any idea, like, is that, kind of in your next sprint, or is that further down the roadmap?
So things like this will make a quick release because it's not I would say too complicated to add these parameters, and since Lineups has
Right.
requested it, I would definitely expedite and put it quickly. So maybe the next release of 2FA, we are now focusing on Cisco, but probably in a week maximum or a couple of
Yeah.
weeks max.
Okay. And then the length parameter there, is there any sort of minimum that we enforce on that?
We haven't put any minimum or maximum. We let user select whatever they like.
Okay. Okay. Just curious. Thanks.
No problems. Okay, so let's move on. So the next one is verify. So of course, once you send the OTP, the applications has to verify that OTP, right? And the API is again very simple. It's all post, um, and it has relatively small number of parameters, obviously, because you are just verifying the OTP. So as I explained earlier, service is mandatory if you're using the or legacy API or old API, where you are passing the number. So basically, if this number is a two number, right? So you can verify the OTP by passing the two number, the service, and the code. These three are mandatory parameters to verify the OTP. But if you're using the new API, in the new API, when you send the OTP, it generates a unique ID. Let me show you that quickly. Documentation or an example. So this is when you send a OTP, this is how it looks like, the response, and this is the unique ID. So according to the new API, you don't have to pass the two number. You just pass this unique OTP ID. Why is this important? Because we want to uniquely identify the OTP in the database, right? So it becomes very important even for searching. Now, what exactly happened with this OTP? So we'll come to that when we go to search. But if you're using the latest API, then you just pass the code and the request ID, the unique request ID. And you can also verify the OTP on behalf of sub account. So verify is relatively simple. Okay. So what we have done is we have added quite a lot of error code for each of the APIs, and to uniquely distinguish what exactly is happening in the system, why did the OTP fail. So the OTP would have three status or four status. Either it's live, it's expired, or it's cancelled, or it's successful. Successful is, of course, if the OTP is already verified by previous verify call. So when you are making a verify, it will give you very specific error code with very specific HTTP status as well. So the developers knows exactly what's happening in the system, and they can take the corrective measures if they are calling the verify again and again, right? So this is something that um, our customers have explicitly asked for, and we have captured more or less all the errors possible. But of course, if you guys are trying something and you come across some error which is not captured, please feel free to provide feedback. Okay. So the control.
So real quick.
Yeah.
I think you're just about to cover the canceled part. I just had a question on how an OTP is canceled, but I think that's next.
Yep. You're jumping ahead. Sorry. Okay. So right. So control is the third category. Control is basically to cancel or resend. Again, resend is work under progress, and cancel is pretty simple. So you call 2FA cancel and you pass the unique ID. So that's the parameter, unique ID, that gets generated, and the OTP gets cancelled. As simple as that. And then if the user is trying to verify, of course you get a specific error message that OTP is cancelled. Does that make sense?
Makes sense.
Perfect. There is one more feature. So if I send a OTP and if I don't cancel, and for the same unique service and from number and to number, if I call the send again, the system is intelligent to know that there is already one OTP which is live, and now user is trying to create another OTP altogether. So what system will do is it will cancel the previous OTP and then regenerate the new OTP. This is for the security, to make sure that we don't have two OTPs live in the system at any given point in time. As I said, we are implementing the resend. So if user wants to resend, then they should call explicitly the resend API. But if the same combination of from, to, and service is used to send OTP, it will definitely cancel the previous OTP, the live OTP.
So resend will send the same 6-digit code?
Yes, it will send the same 6-digit code. Okay.
Hey, Amit.
Hi, Charles.
Hey, one question about the cancel. So if you generate another one, and then that means if the default time is 5 minutes, and the person is trying to generate another one within that 5 minutes, it would cancel the previous one and then send a new one.
That's right. Yes.
Okay. What was I going to say? What we have a mechanism in place where if someone was, because some people can use some sort of automation and they start to spam, so you get this sort of continuous cancel, new cancel. Is there a way is there a limit to that where you can make sure people don't abuse the system by spamming the server?
No, Charles, we haven't yet put that. I think that's something that we have to think at a broader level of Restcomm APIs as well. Like, you can start sending SMS, calling multiple APIs. Um, but as I explained earlier, that since the 2FA uses the underlying Restcomm API and there is threshold on the Restcomm API. So whatever threshold Restcomm API is putting for call and SMS, of course the sending of the SMS or call will fail on the 2FA side as well, and it captures the exact error from the Restcomm side. So when you search for OTP, it will just give you the error that the threshold would have reached. But system itself or the 2FA business logic itself hasn't implemented any threshold as of today.
I have a follow-up from Charles's first question. So when you do resend, does it continue with this timer from the original send, or does it restart the 5-minute timer?
So it will continue the original timer.
Okay, got it.
I mean, this is still under implementation, so if you think otherwise, we can exchange ideas and change that if required.
Yeah, I was just thinking if they want it resend, it sounds like they didn't receive it the first time, so maybe that would make sense to extend it for another 5 minutes, but that could potentially be taken advantage of from a security perspective.
Yeah, I think there is loophole there, right? And in that case, where would you stop it?
Yeah.
Okay, let's keep moving. So again, as I explained, each of the APIs has their unique error codes. So if the OTP is already verified or expired or cancelled, then if you're trying to cancel it again, you get a very specific errors. So the developers knows what's happening, and they can take the corrective measures, right? Um, the search API. So the search is divided into two parts. It's about session detail records, where you get the exact detail about OTP sent, what happened with that, whether it was verified, whether it didn't verify, which all channels were leveraged to send this OTP, and how many checks were made. When I say check, is verify calls were made. All those things will come on session detail record, and of course usage, which is basically you call an API and you want to know how many OTPs sent today, yesterday, this month, so on and so forth, even for a date range. So if our CSP wants to do billing, they will call the usage API, and if they want to search for specific things, they will call the session detail record API, right? So let's go to the search API. This is the usage record API. So as I explained, it's a simple get, and you can pass the parameters I want for daily, monthly, today, yesterday, this month, last month, and it will give you the exact details about how many calls, how many SMSs, and what all OTPs. Let me quickly show you how it looks like. Yeah. Yeah, so basically, if I say daily, give it a daily for only calls, like OTPs went only through calls. So this is where it gives you like two OTPs were sent on 22nd, right, or 23rd basically. And if there were more OTPs, then it will be comma separated values, and you can see um, number of OTPs for daily basis. If you don't pass the channel, it will give you for all the channels, which is SMS, call, and email. So you'll get all the details about OTPs being sent. Um, and we are implementing the uh, consolidated value as well. So this is divided for calls, SMS, and emails. But let's say I don't care about calls, SMS, and email. I want all the OTPs sent and how many of them were successful or failure. So that's in the roadmap. That will be coming a bit later.
On the search, is it possible to do based off of the service that was specified?
Yeah, that's specific for that's not for usage records, right? You don't want to, or you are saying about usage record as well. Like for usage record, you want to know for this particular service how
Yeah.
many OTPs. Um,
Yeah, exactly.
haven't added that in the roadmap yet, but I think that's a good point.
Yeah, if if you want to say how many people am I resetting passwords versus how many people am I doing, login, login to FA or something like that.
Right, right.
Hmm.
Yeah, so there are quite a few probabilities here, Sabi, that may come up. We just started with the very basic ones to test the waters,
Yeah,
and
yeah, totally understand. Just some. I'm just throwing ideas out there as I have them.
no, makes sense. Absolutely, I'm noting down as well, and definitely it will go
Cool.
as in the roadmap. So thanks for that.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, let's go to search. So as I explained, search is if you want to find out about a very specific OTP or a list of OTPs, it gives all the details and it supports paging. So you can specify page and page size. You can specify I want to find out all the OTPs with status cancelled or success or uh, you know whatever, and between this start time and end time, um, or this particular code or this particular channel or this particular from to. We also record the target SID. So this is the SID from the Restcomm. So let's say our CSP is supporting the enterprise, and the enterprise says, "Hey, what happened to this OTP? It never reached to my customer," or what are you guys doing? Um, so you get the target SID. You can also go and dig into the Restcomm with that target SID and find out what's happening in the Restcomm as well. So this gives you a link between the 2FA and Restcomm. It will help our support guys as well, right? So this is basically the link between the two systems. Let me show you how it looks like. So this is the example of OTP. So basically, you have the service, the account SID by which this was sent, the date it was created, what is the status, and the events basically represents how what or through what channel this OTP was sent. And this is very interesting: the channel status, the error code, and error message. So let's say if it was sent as an SMS and the delivery failed for whatever reasons, and we received the delivery receipt from Nexmo or Tele or whoever it is with a specific error code. So the end user doesn't have to go to Restcomm for that. He will just pull up that OTP and it will automatically show what exactly happened with that channel. And of course, if you want to understand what is this error code, then you have to read the Restcomm documentation. As of today, events is only having one row because we are not allowing multiple sends as of today, or resend is not implemented. But imagine once the resend is implemented, the events is anyway a list. So you can have a multiple events, like first you try to send it through SMS and then through call and then through again SMS. So all those details will be listed in the OTP search, right? Um, so what is checks? Checks is how many times a user called verify. So there is probability that user is calling verify with wrong code or wrong service. So all those details will also get captured in this checks. And again, it's a list. So as many times the checks has happened, the data will get populated over here. And once it's valid, of course, it's success and all done. Make sense? Cool.
Makes sense.
Cool. So we are also working on sorting. Again, this is in the future. So we want to sort. We want to allow the users to call API and sort on whatever basis, like sort it based on success, cancel the status, or based on date created. Again, this is very preliminary. Depending upon the feedback that we will gather from CSP and enterprise, we'll start adding more and more. One of the feedback that I already received from our customer in Middle East is we want to search all the OTPs based on country code. So not based on from number, not based on to number, but country code. So it has to support, like, starting with, let's say if it's US, then +1, or if it's any other country, then the country code. So that's something that we have to think and how to implement. That's what our competitors do. Not all of them, but I think what we are exposing as of today is fairly mature and very competitive in terms of other 2FA offerings out there. Mm, yeah, so this is all that we have implemented so far. In terms of roadmap, phase 2 is done. Phase 3 is also done. There are a few bugs that we'll fix in phase 4. We haven't yet put the timeline for phase 4, but once the Cisco WebEx is done, which is mid of August or third week of August, we'll come back to 2FA. And by then, probably all of our CSP would have given a try to this and we would have gathered enough of data. But the idea is to keep fixing the bugs and keep adding the features as and when we receive the feedback. We would also create a very simple site for demo. So you don't have to simulate with APIs or curl in front of customers. Just log into the site using your Restcomm APIs, and one of the buttons will say generate the OTP to this number, and the other site will simulate more like a e-commerce site, or if you guys have seen the click to call application that we created, something similar where you just press enter the OTP and it will say if it's successful or not. We already created a user requirement or the product requirement document for UI. So we want that CSPs and enterprise should be able to log into that UI, um, and they should be able to retrieve all the OTP records or the usage records for billing. So that's something that we'll implement in phase 4. Eventually, we want to expose the SDK for Android and iOS. So basically, that allows you to create an application on top of Android and iOS as well. Um, in terms of competition, Twilio is the only one who does this. But if you compare with any other CPaaS offering out there in the market, including Nexmo or MessageBird or you name it, uh, with the features that we have exposed, we are already on par or ahead of other offerings in terms of 2FA. So that's a roadmap. The phase 5 timelines are not fixed. Obviously, it will depend on the adoption rate of 2FA service by our customers, and then we'll decide when should we do the phase 5. So I think that's it.
Amit, may I ask you something?
Mhm.
So, in terms of the UI that you mentioned, do you imagine this to be something similar to, let's say, what we have in terms of Swagger UI, or is it something that will be available inside the console? What is the plan on that?
It's going to be console. They see just like how I showed to you about WebEx wireframe, very much similar to that. So I'll definitely require your help to create the screenshots for that. But yeah, it's full-fledged console.
All right, makes sense.
Thanks, Amit. It's really awesome how quickly you guys have been able to implement these features and get up to par with what's in the industry right now. So awesome work.
Thanks, guys. I think the kudos goes to the team, specifically to Huan, and of course, thanks to the infra squad for helping us for deploying on a timely fashion. But I think the biggest kudos goes to the team. So cheers to the team.
Yeah, good job, everyone.
Congrats, guys.
Thanks, guys. So I'll upload this recording and share the link on the general channel. If there's not any more questions, then I think we can drop.
One last one. In terms of what's displayed kind of on our marketing side, have you worked with Vina to have all the new features that we talked about today in those documents?
Good question. So Vina and I have been communicating on the proper process. Of course, Kevin is part
Okay.
of it, and maybe I can share that the document with you and David as well. So basically, there's a proper process that we are following on. What all marketing needs to do to make this announcement in front of our customers and PR.
Right.
So that's work in the progress.
Gotcha. Okay. Sounds good.
Amit, there's been one question. So until we are done with the split in console between CSPs and enterprises, so it fits under the CSP or enterprise, if it makes sense, which way the customers will have to enter in this. Do you want to link it somehow to the console even before that?
So as of today, what I thought, Despina, is it'll probably be the same flow as Restcomm Connect or Restcomm Console. It's all about user ID and password. You enter that, and if
Sign in
you
then.
sorry,
You will have a sign in.
yes, sign in, and if you are CSP, then it will allow you to search on behalf of sub account as well.
So using regularly your Restcomm credentials, that means that someone needs to sign up from Restcomm console, and then with the same credentials, they will be able to enter
Yes,
in
exactly.
this as well. Yeah, in that case, it would be good from the beginning to have a link from the console even before the split. Okay, since we will have a call for WebEx Teams, let's check that because it's pretty similar.
Yeah, let's walk through that, and of course, we'll do the pretty much same work for 2FA as well.
Right. Okay. Really nice job and very fast.
Great. Thanks, guys, for attending the call. I'll ping the link of recording on the Slack channel.
Thanks, Amit.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you, guys.
Bye bye.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.
Bye bye.
It is.